It always seems like as soon as you get going, it's like the temperature in here just like 15
Oh, it
degrees
heats
and
up.
just jumped.
Got that thermostat over there just high rising.
I love that wood slab. That is so cool.
Yeah, it is.
I
We
like
had
the logo too.
the last guy actually was on the podcast. Jim Hurley. He's the one that actually made the sign and
Okay.
the table there.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, we
There's
got
a lot
that.
of cool woodwork.
He does. He's good at it, man. He is someone that will literally take the time, and he will do it great for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now you know.
That's awesome.
But no, we got Dylan Wheeler on the podcast, so really thank you for being here.
Yes.
I got some exciting questions to ask you. I
Oh.
met you, a couple months now.
Yep.
And it was just honestly kind of by accident.
It was, but like nothing's an accident
No.
in life. So like,
It was so cool how it happened.
it almost feels like the law of attraction was at play because of the things that I've been studying in spirituality, and then we crossed paths, and I just knew instantly that you were open to hearing about this stuff. And at this point, it's just been kind of me and my wife talking about this, but then you had ears to like kind of hear some of this stuff that I was learning and sharing, and it was just like, it started. I mean, we probably talked for like an hour.
It was a little better.
I came here as a real estate appraiser to look at your house,
Yep.
and all we did was talk about spirituality.
It was because when you come into the house, I didn't know what to expect. I was expecting take
And-
a few pictures, you just kind of go on about your day, and then once you kind of got brought up with your story and kind of what just going through whatever, just kind of chit chat and get to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, man, this guy has a big story to tell.
Yeah,
I could tell that
maybe.
you're kind of giving the vibe of listen.
Mm-hmm.
For me, when you were talking, it was one of them deals. Like, I could learn a lot from you, and even sitting down here today, I'm super thrilled to hear about the experiences that you have and the stories and kind of the knowledge that you possessed over the years.
Yeah, well, ask away, man.
Okay,
Yeah.
Trev, you take charge. What you got?
Okay. So kind of jumping right into it, I guess. Basically, I got some questions to do with like the spirituality kind of things,
Yeah.
which I'm very curious and interested in hearing what you have to say about it. So right off the bat, I was talking to a guy at work the other day, and we were just kind of talking about like different dimensions. You know what I mean? Like the 3D, the 4D, like
Yep.
all that stuff and whatnot. And
And just to preface real quick, like I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. Like I'm still brand new, learning all this. So like I'll share what I know is true, but like I'm not a guru, a spiritual
no.
guru. I'm
Yeah.
just saying right off the bat. So like I don't want people looking at me like we have a spiritual guru on the podcast today, like anything like that. My feet are still just getting into the water of this area.
100%, 100%. Just someone else's perspective for sure.
Yeah.
So with this being said, I was just kind of wondering and see what your thoughts are on it.
Sure.
So as in God,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Do you think that God is obviously a higher power up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that they give it to us in a human perspective wise because we can't see anything more than 3D?
Yeah.
We can see 4D shadow or but we
Mhm.
can't actually comprehend it really.
Are you saying like how we personify God as like a he,
As
father?
a human. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I
And-
think like, the prophets 2,000 years ago, the scriptures like the Bible refer to God as a father, a human, because we can kind of wrap our minds around the love of a father type of deal, but God's not really a father. God is source. God is everything,
Sure, yep.
you know?
Sure. So literally, yeah, I mean that's
Yeah, but it's easier to understand. Like we also have, like we're basically eternal spirits. We're beings having this human experience.
Yep.
This is a very temporary deal. We're here to learn basically how to love.
Yep.
That's what it all boils down to. But we're also here to evolve spiritually, and then that gets into the topic of reincarnation, of coming back here to continue to learn these lessons for our spirits to evolve. In 2,000 years ago, I don't think we were spiritually evolved enough. We needed some kind of understanding of God as a father, and more like human traits, personalities to be able to understand God. But I think that understanding is changing in these days a lot, actually.
As in what form?
As in just understanding God as like, even like the science of just being energy, God
Sure.
being literally everything.
sure. Because that's like the even saying of like, well, energy cannot be created or destroyed,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So with that, that kind of does, in a way, in my mind, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because you die, and obviously your spirit is energy,
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So
we continue
you
on
continue
like
on.
right, we're just these
to a
spirits
different-
in these bodies, but like we take our conscience with us. That energy of our spirit goes on. We go
Yeah.
back to the spiritual realm with everything we learned, everything we did. Like our conscience bears witness to all of our thoughts, our words, and our actions while we're here on earth. So when we die and our spirit returns to the spiritual realm in the presence of a higher presence of, God, it's like if you were a bad person, you did a lot of bad things, you're going to feel regret and shame. How could I do this? You're sitting in this holy presence, this pure presence, and you're impure because you screwed up. You treated people like crap. You were a mean guy
Yeah.
type of deal. So then that's what hell would be, that state of consciousness in the afterlife of, dang, I really screwed up. But then, you go through that and you process it. And God's going to be the first one. If you can think of God as human too.
Yep.
You can think of God as being the first one to say, hey, my child, like, I'm going to send you back and you can try again and you can learn these lessons until you get it right, because that's the grace of God.
So then is that like
Hmm.
I'm not super good with like I do believe in God and all that stuff, but I'm still learning
Mhm.
currently. So with that being said, when someone dies and like how like spirits, right? Like as in like haunted houses or just how sometimes there's like that
Yep.
energy sometimes.
Absolutely. Yep.
So like there's good energy and bad, it seems like, obviously, with
Yep.
that.
So there's spiritual entities we all have our own free will to make our own decisions. And there are disincarnated spirits still in this realm that we can't see. Like you were saying, we see on such a small spectrum, but you can feel it. Sometimes you can feel when like a presence is around, if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Because the souls that are attached to this world, this material realm, can get trapped here, for a brief period of time. That's why you can feel like the presence of, ghosts or whatever
Yeah.
you want to say.
Yeah, okay. So technically, they might not even be, and I might sound silly talking about this, I'm just not sure exactly, or
Mhm.
So are the ones that are stuck here, are they stuck here? Or you said just
They're
temporarily?
Probably temporarily. Like, yeah, you can talk to them. You can tell them like, hey, just go towards the light, my friend. It's
Yeah.
okay. God is all love. Because they have to make that decision too to go back into the light too. But they're roaming around here in that state of hell, trying to
Oh.
figure it out. And that's where you can be like, hey, God is all love. Nothing. You're perfect being. Just go to the light, my friend. Like you can claim like this is my house. Okay. Like you can go somewhere else, but you could ultimately just go back, to God.
Would that guide him, or like say you got that
You
ghost
can.
presence?
If
like
you've
it's-
ever watched Mediums, like how they'll light up the sage and stuff like
Yep.
that, and that stuff is very real.
Really?
and that
Huh.
just brings them to where they're.
I
Like,
don't
their
know how the
destination?
sage works exactly, the smoke and all that, but yeah, they can be
Really?
guided back home.
This is weird by sages, like that spiritual scent, or it's that spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how that works.
You think that was something that was over time, like history? Like how different cultures kind of have their own little seances. You think that's something that was just brought down from history, like a long time ago?
Like lighting the sage,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
just kind of carried through it without the years.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So then going back to still with some of this religion stuff, and I just got a lot of questions about it, really,
Mhm.
kind of.
I didn't grow up religious or anything like that, but I've read the Bible.
Really?
Oh,
Um,
really?
yep.
Read it.
Mhm.
Dang.
There's
I
a
mean,
lot
I
of
read a lot.
versions.
I read a lot of different things. I just bought the Quran last week because I want to
Oh,
read that
really?
one too.
Really?
Because there's a lot of spiritual truths in those like holy inspired scriptures,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of leaven too. There's falsehoods. There's lies. It's been tampered with because they want to control people and keep them in a state of fear.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've heard that too.
You practice different religions too, don't you? Or like kind of got the knowledge of. A lot
I
of
like
them?
to study them because
Yeah.
there's a lot of synchronicities between all of them. There's
'Cause
a
I
lot
know
of
last-
basic truths.
Last time we were talking, I knew briefly you just touched on like Buddhism or
Buddhism?
Buddhism.
Yep.
Like, is that something that you just kind of studied too?
I
Or is that
definitely
something-
connect a lot, with some of these Eastern religions like Buddhism. I've just been studying them. Like, Buddhism ultimately is like their main tenet is do not attach yourself to anything, because if you're not attached to anything in this material temporary world, then you can't suffer, because you just become this neutral observer to
Sure.
everything, which makes a lot of sense to me. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to be a monk in a monastery and not
Mhm.
caring about anything that happens here.
True.
Can
Yeah.
you tell, like, with all the religions that you studied, do they intertwine at all? Like, can you see why one person follows this instead of that, or
Yeah.
do they
I mean,
intertwine pretty much?
I don't know enough. I haven't studied all of them in
Yep.
depth enough, but a lot of the basic truths that you can feel with like your spirit, that you know that it's love. I'm reading this. This is definitely God's love. It's bringing me to a higher place right now. That's found in all of them, for sure. But then there's passages like, 1 Samuel 15:3, I think it is, where they said that God said to go to this village and kill all the men, women, animals, infants, babies. I'm just like, what? That doesn't sound like love. And then I talk to Christians about this, passages like that, and I'm like, if God is love, like how, why would he tell you to kill babies?
Right.
Yeah.
And then instantly that cognitive dissonance boils up, and it's like, well, God's ways are higher than our ways. Or it sounds like you need to take this up with God yourself. I'm like, well, I have, and I know that's not God. So I'm questioning, like, why do you believe that's God?
Yeah.
Can you at least maybe think, or like, admit that maybe what you're reading in a book is not coming from God?
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard to do because you're programmed, like I said, with the fear of, well, eternal punishment and hell if I get this wrong, and if I question God, who is wrathful and angry and jealous God, which are all false. Those are human attributes, human weaknesses, not God.
Yeah.
You're fearful to even question these things, so you'll just, you won't question it. You'll just stay in your lane and tell other people, you don't question it either, and you need to like believe in Jesus, or you're going to go to hell forever. That's coming from a place of fear.
And that's a perfect place to control people.
It is
too.
absolutely,
Yeah. It's all control.
absolutely, yep.
Wow.
If I can ask you, kind of, Trev, did you have one question, or did you have a question?
Oh, kind of. I was just gonna go back real quick and just kind of see what you thought about with the whole Bible thing. Like, how they say, gosh, I'm gonna sound foolish on this one, but it was, where was it, over by Egypt or whatever, where the river, what's the river with?
Are you talking about Jordan? The
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So didn't he get baptized?
Jesus.
In that, Jesus got baptized
Yep.
in that. So was God? So God is
Allegedly,
Jesus'
I
son.
wasn't there for it.
No, right. But like from what you've read or what you understand, like, so Jesus was a real person then. Was Jesus a real
Probably.
person, right?
Probably.
And then God sent Jesus
Mhm.
as his son, right?
Yeah.
Or God sent Jesus as
Well, that's the way Christianity deifies Jesus as being God,
Oh.
like completely being God in the flesh.
Oh, he is. Oh, okay. I
well,
see.
they'll say he is God, and like
was-
basically worship him.
Okay.
Well, my understanding is Jesus was just like us, a human
That's okay.
who had God realization, which he ascended in consciousness to a higher plane, which would be like Christ consciousness. And that's why he said in the Bible, all these things I'm doing, you'll do greater things, but you have to go inward and raise your consciousness up to there in alignment with God. So basically, he was an ascended like master, a teacher, showing us how to get to that state of being.
Sure. Okay, I see.
When in reality, everyone's just like, church tells you, just say you believe in Jesus and dunk in this bath and you're good, bro. It's not like that, though.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus would be rolling over in his grave or wherever he's at, like
Yeah.
saying, you got this all wrong. Pay attention to my teachings. I'm telling you guys to love each other,
Yeah.
even love your enemies.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and
That's
like,
hard,
we
man.
don't
That's-
focus on the teachings very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
We focus on the death, burial, resurrection, because somehow that blots out all of our sins. But that doesn't rest well with my consciousness. It's like, no, that's just, I'm making him a scapegoat. I'm not being accountable for anything.
Yeah.
I don't need to change. I just say that I believe in Jesus, show up to church, and slate is wiped clean. But it's
Yeah.
not like that.
Yeah.
You
That's good.
you really changed my mind. Like exactly what you just said when I first met you and you told me that. That really changed my ways of looking at religion.
Mm-hmm.
Or like just kind of even praying to Jesus in a way like what you said, like with people he don't want to be worshipped.
Mm-hmm.
Like I talk to him as a friend now.
Right.
And I've always kind of did, but I always felt like I needed to worship him.
Yeah.
And I know everyone has their own beliefs and everything. It's just
It's scary if you're like, you've been conditioned for so long in
Exactly.
church to like think
Yep.
differently, because it's like you're a little bit scared to like,
Don't
almost
ask.
lower him to not being a god.
Mm-hmm.
It's like scary to do that, and then the judgment comes from others on that, and
Yeah.
so it takes a lot of courage and bravery to do that.
I do the same thing every morning. Every morning on my way to work, or just every morning, I always pray. Every
Yeah.
morning, that's just my routine.
Praying is our superpower, man.
But that is so true for me, even to this day, where there's times I say things and then I'm like, I don't mean it like this, or you
Mhm.
know what? Like same thing. Like I put it I think about it too much sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of looking at it as like talking to a friend, sometimes I go ahead and just like you said, or what you were saying on how I look at it as like he is a higher power, but I'm afraid if I say this, I might turn it the wrong way. Or,
Right.
you
How would you talk to yourself? You know, because you can think of God as being like your higher self.
and yeah,
Because if God is everything, we fall underneath the category of being part of everything. Bible says we're made in His image. You know, so like
Yeah.
technically that would make me God, but it would also make you God. But we're not God.
Yeah.
So it's like
I
it's
see.
almost a paradox, but at the same time, like we have the power to create.
Yeah.
You know, we have the power to change our thoughts
Yep.
and our actions and everything like that.
Hmm.
So in a way, like that's a big deal.
That's a
Wow.
good way to look at like that. That changed my perspective on that now.
Mm-hmm.
Or because like yeah,
Like you could just talk to God as a friend, as like
Mhm.
yourself. How would you talk to yourself?
yeah,
You know.
yep.
So
If you don't mind me asking, how did you kind of get into wanting to know about like the religions and
Yeah,
studying?
yeah.
Like, what kind of brought you to this?
probably my whole life, like just the way my life has transpired. Like I had a spiritual awakening in 2011. Maybe it was 2000. Yeah, 2011 probably. Then we're gonna start to get into like the rabbit holes of conspiracies. And,
Yeah.
you know, I started smoking a lot of pot around that time too, which did nothing but like expand my mind and made me more open and like, you know, um, able to receive just different things. Like my mind was open for sure. Also, you know, dabbled with LSD, mushrooms. That got me to realize like, whoa, everything really is interconnected. Everything really is energy. And just kind of the peace of mind that, well, fast forwarding now, I have the peace of mind that I don't have to worry about anything. I truly know God is love and God is everything. What do I have to worry about? You know, why would I be scared of the creation if everything stems from God? You know, I have nothing to fear. Obviously, in this 3D we're in right now, danger is real, yes, but I don't have to fear it, especially if it's not present, you know?
Right. Yep.
But yeah, so I kind of had a spiritual awakening in 2013. Um, it's really wild. I don't even know how to begin to like tell it or where to start
Just
it
the
because
best you can
I
do.
could be here for like 3 hours. But basically, I had a spiritual awakening. My buddy said, "Dylan, God's been talking to you your whole life. You need to wake the f up."
Mhm.
Basically, and something just like I felt like a lightning bolt go down my spine. And it felt like I had been living my whole life in black and white, and all of a sudden I saw color for the first time, and I was scared, like shitless, essentially. Like it turned into like a really bad trip for me because I didn't know. Like the only way I knew God was from a little bit of the Bible, being that angry, wrathful, jealous. You better get in line, boy, or you're gonna get punished,
Yeah.
type of thing. So basically, I went into fear immediately, and then. And at that point too, like I probably wasn't a very good person, you know, just sleeping around with women, um, not treating people very well. So like I had all those inner shadows that I wasn't addressing, and that kind of bubbled to the surface too. So I just went in total fear, panic mode. Didn't know what reality I was in anymore. It got to the point where I was just like, I don't know what's happening, going into like a psychosis state of mind. And then I thought, wow, I need to listen to everything God tells me. And all of a sudden, it came to one point where I thought God was telling me to kill myself with a kitchen knife to prove my faith. And I tried. I actually tried to do it. Didn't succeed. I can show you the stitches, though, from it right here on my wrist, if you guys can see that.
Oh man.
So, like, I really tried. I tried hard to, like, kill myself. Like, I was like, I'm ready to go into whatever this is.
Was
I'd
there
like
Something talking to
Dang.
you? Like, was there an actual voice telling you, Dylan, kill
a little
yourself?
bit, and after that, it got stronger. Like I did get labeled as schizo. I got labeled as bipolar and all of that stuff, and I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew it was spiritual. And the psychologist that interviewed me and talked to me, the therapist, they weren't willing to hear anything from spiritual. It was all science based. Basically, the brain. It's something wrong with my brain that's chemically imbalanced, and that's why you're having auditory hallucinations or like seeing things or anything like that. I'm like, no, it's like this is spiritual. If anything, I might be possessed by some kind of negative spirit playing on me. And if you start talking about you know. And the thing is too, like I'm like God. I have moments too of just ecstasy where I'm like, wow, God really is love and everything, and you know. But if you start talking about, yeah, I talk to God, and when you're being evaluated by a psychiatrist or whatnot, you're gonna end up there for a while. So I ended up in, and this is the thing too. It recycled for probably 3 or 4 years, and I spent 13 total months within psych wards, like mental hospitals, and things like that, being totally misunderstood, being drugged up, forcefully vaccinated with medicine and everything like that. So like I was
Wow.
through the ringer with all this stuff, but
And
I'm thankful it happened. Like everything happens for a reason. I finally have that higher perspective now. It didn't happen to me because that would make me a victim. It happened for me.
Yeah.
And now I'm speaking to you guys about it on this podcast.
Yeah.
So,
was it your parents that was their decision to bring you into a psych ward, or
Oh,
was
yeah.
it like going to the school and like seeing
well, I
them?
became like borderline like catatonic. Like I do believe like, yeah, our brains, like this is a computer program, basically. Our brains are very powerful.
Yeah.
And I do believe they can get chemically imbalanced or like something can get damaged the same way you can pull a muscle.
Yeah.
But that's not the whole story. Like there is a very spiritual aspect. Like we're talking about these disincarnated spirits. Some of them are very malevolent, like, you know, evil, you could say, that prey when you're in that lower contracted state. And if you're impure, if you haven't purified yourself in like your consciousness and made up for terrible things you've done or let go of all that, they can prey on that negative energy on you
Sure.
and almost get access to you in a way.
Just
So
feed off
in a
you.
way I was possessed.
Could you tell, like when they're doping you up and everything, and you were being misunderstood? At any time, did you kind of change your mind? Like, did you ever think that you were crazy?
A little bit, yeah.
You know, like,
because
did they
you're in
try to
the-
convince
They keep
you?
you in there for so long, and they make you go to all these classes, and you know they look at you, they treat you like, no, it's all in your brain. You know, it's just in your
Really?
brain. You know,
How do you power through that?
well, you can go into depression. And that's the thing. Are you where are you at with your mind state? You know, I was in very terrible places in there, but then I would be in great places. I'd start reading the Bible, and things would start making sense. And I always focused on like the red letters in the Bible, which were, you know, the words of Jesus. And I read those over and over again, and things started making sense to me. And I realized it was all just a trial. It was all a test, and then I would get through it. But they'd keep me in there so long, and I'd be drugged up for so long, and I'd start to believe like, yeah, you have to be on the medicine or this is going to happen again, and you got to stop smoking pot, and you got to stop doing these things. And I'd get out zombified, and I'd be right back into the 9-to-5 job, and I'd be like, did that even happen? Like, you know, this was like it was supernatural 4 months ago, and now I just feel like this walking, talking zombie, and then eventually I'd break out of that again. I'd get off all the meds and smoke pot again, but I hadn't done the inner work still.
Sure.
And then the cycle would repeat again.
And that's a real thing too. Even at like them psych wards and stuff too. Like there's been studies done on how it can mess with your head, on how you think. I mean, obviously it's your environment. Look at the environment you're in, on what you're gonna learn and pick up from that. And just like you said, how they treat you, and then you do start questioning yourself. And then you do, or you know, like I've never been there, but just it doesn't even have to be that. It can be anything in general.
Yeah.
If someone keeps telling you something in your head, it's like over and over again, you're gonna start thinking about that, and you're
Yeah.
gonna start questioning yourself, like, man, like
You're
am I
there long
short, or
enough.
am I like, or you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
you really start. Thinking
It's like,
of
wait, I am in a psych ward. Like, maybe
Yeah.
I am crazy.
yeah, you know. So it's like no.
that would
kidding.
make sense, I
Yeah.
guess.
You know, it's like okay, yeah, give me the jab again. I
Yeah.
guess. You know, it's like, it's like
Yeah.
oh man.
Yeah, the jab was for when I refused. I was like, no, I don't want any of this stuff. I'm a sovereign being. I'm not doing it. Well, then we're going to go to a judge, Dylan, and we'll forcefully medicate you because
my
we'll get the judge's ruling, which is a Jarvis 21 ruling, which they did against me. And then, yeah, they came like, I was like, well, I'm telling you what, I'm not going to eat or take the orally ingest the medicines that you're telling me. If you want to stab me in the arm and inject this poison into me, then that's going to be on you, man. And I did. Like, I
Oh
didn't
my
fight
goodness.
back or anything. I was just like, okay, do it then.
Were you a minor at this time?
No, when it happened, I was 21 or 22.
Man. So what do they do? Okay, how did they bring you into the psych ward? Like, did they lead you by hand, or was it kind
Well,
of
the
like
first time it was because, like, I was like, I had a gash in my wrist. It was like bleeding out, you know?
Yeah.
and a cop showed up, and I regrettably, like, I was in the mode of I don't give a f about nothing. Like, I'm so like I have no idea what the f is happening after I did this, because from panic to like what the f is going on, it's because it can be dangerous, man, when people wake up on a bad trip and whatnot. Like, people who are labeled schizo and things like that, they can be dangerous because they don't know reality, what's happening. And like, my brother was like, "What the f you doing, man?" Like, he was there and a couple of his friends, and like, it was just so supernatural, everything that was happening. And I walked outside and I looked up at the sky. I was like, I don't give a whatever. I was like yelling at God, basically. And then a cop pulled up into our driveway, came up to me, and I slapped the cop. Because I slapped the cop and was like, I always wanted to do that to a pig. you know, that I'm telling you, like, I was just a rebellious, like, younger guy. And then after I slapped the cop, some form of reality started setting back in, and like, the cop like kneed me in like the gut or something. And then before that, even though, like, after I yelled at God, like, I ripped my pants off, like, I put him down, like, who wants to party now? Like, like, I was at the wit's end of not caring about what anyone thought about anything ever.
Yeah.
And then finally I was like, all right, I'm done. And then they handcuffed me. An ambulance came and put me into the ambulance, and I didn't know what was happening. I was like, how am I not dead right now? Did all my blood go out?
Right.
Am I a robot or something? I don't know what's happening. And I'm sitting back there, and this is where it gets really crazy. I started having like mental telepathy with the guy who was in that ambulance and with the people who were driving it.
What does that mean?
This is where, like, I know that they could hear my thoughts. And this is where I start to question, what kind of intervention was this? Like, these are not like regular human beings, unless you guys can do that too. I don't know. But and when I was in the psych ward, I brought that up, I think, once or twice. Got the craziest, like, wow, he is nuts. He is really a crazy guy type looks, which probably kept me in there a lot longer. And I feel a little bit reserved bringing it up right now, but at the same time, I do feel like in the future, this is all going to be just common. Like, duh, yeah, of course. Like, thoughts are energy, thoughts are vibrations, and we can transmute them.
So you're saying you're basically that you understood that they could feel your thoughts or hear your thoughts. And
because at that point, I was like, am I an alien or something? Like, I don't know what's happening. And then I tested it out with, I directed my thoughts to whoever's driving this ambulance, and I was like, speed up. And it started speeding up, and I was like, go faster. It started going really fast. And I was like, all right, stop. And it came to a stop. I was like, go again. And like, we could say this is coincidence. It was lined up with traffic, the stoplights.
Right.
But no, you go deeper into that, and I'm sitting in there, and the guy's stitching me up, and I tried it again. Like, my mind is spinning at 1,000,000 miles an hour, because I didn't know, like, you could talk with minds and stuff like this. I didn't even know God was real until like 24 hours before. But when he was stitching me up, there was a nurse in there that wasn't looking at me, and in my mind, I directed my thoughts to her and said, kiss the other girl in there. I told her said, make out with that other nurse. And she turned around and just gave me like the most disgusted look, like, shame on you. And I was like,
oh my God, dude.
Yeah. And then I'm in the Grace unit after that, and I'm thinking I'm in a spaceship or something somewhere, and they're taking me somewhere, or I'm being analyzed, or, and I'm getting all these samples, and I'm just like by aliens that look like humans or something. So.
Wow.
But in a way, you think of it though, it's like just like how you get vibes. Like the vibes is a real thing. It's that frequency. It's that vibration. You know what I mean? And it's a real thing.
All matter is energy condensed to a slow vibration. All atoms are 99.99 infinite open space. When you think about it, which is wild. Like, this is real because it has to be. We're in this realm. It serves a purpose. In this 3D dimension, or the third dimension we're in, it serves a purpose. But when you really get down to the brass tacks, like, this is just energy. Yeah.
Dang. So yeah, and you were just maybe like honestly picking up on like a more intense frequent, like, you were just seeing it through a higher.
I was opened up to a higher, like, state of consciousness.
Yeah.
So like, that's how, like, when people can, read your mind or read your thoughts. Like, have you ever watched those videos of people that do that can literally, like, read your mind, or like you could draw something and not show them, but they know exactly what
Oh,
you
yeah.
drew.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that's getting into that area.
Like wormholing in and
Worm-
just like
yeah.
figuring out who
Yep.
they are.
They
kind of in a
say
way.
that with relationships as well. You know, like if you're being with someone for a long time, I don't know if it's like the actions or the thoughts,
Yep.
but like if you look at someone like the right way or however you guys communicate,
Yep.
it's like that symbol of
Yep.
okay, let's leave or let's eat or something. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
They say like the love or people with long-lasting relationships, they don't really have to talk.
Right. I think it's
Right,
like a
the-
spiritual ability. I think
Yeah.
if none of us talked at all, we would get that back. It's like a spiritual muscle that I
Yeah.
think we would get back.
Mhm.
Imagine if we didn't say any words the whole time to each
Yeah,
other.
just-
Eventually, we'd figure out how to just, send thoughts back and
Yeah.
forth.
That's wild.
Dang, yeah.
While this was going on, were you high or anything? Like in the ambulance, like were you sober or were you on LSD or anything?
Just pot.
That's what
Yeah.
you were. So originally, this whole thing started off with just you were on pot or mushrooms.
Yeah, I
or
was on. Yeah,
LSD?
I was smoking. I had smoked pot before that. Like
Yeah.
that was the only thing in my system at
Mm.
that time.
So
But,
that
but LSD I had done probably a year prior to.
Yep.
So that was opening me up to like what consciousness is and energy, priming me up, I guess. And then it all just hit that point when my buddy basically, I wouldn't say forced me into like that realm, but like kind of opened the door into it.
snapped you into, or just
Yeah,
wham,
it was
like, okay,
literally
dude.
like a lightning bolt down my spine type of deal.
Did he have any connection? Like was he
Um,
religious? Was he the one that made it
No,
clear to you?
no, he wasn't religious, but he was talking about spiritual concepts. This is the thing, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like occult teachings and thing like this, what like the higher ups and the Illuminati and
Sure.
areas like that, they all know this information. Like information isn't inherently wicked or good or evil. It's just information. It's what you do with it. And I don't think he was using this knowledge in a very benevolent way, because I can tell just from his fruits, like the kind of person he is, like that he wasn't doing it out of like love type of deal.
What was he doing it for?
I don't know.
Like to bring harm, you think?
I don't know. Maybe to like recruit me somehow
Huh.
into whatever he was doing, I guess. Like we weren't like really good friends, and we're not really friends anymore. But I don't know, and I've always kind of had that question mark, and I've thought about it a lot, and I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know what the intentions were.
Maybe it was one of them things where, like you said, nothing happens on accident.
Yeah,
Or
and
maybe
that's
God was, or you know what I mean? Maybe it was,
Maybe
he was
maybe he
supposed to send a message
yeah.
to you.
and
know?
knowing that I would go through all of this
Yeah.
crap, but it would come out,
good
for good.
for the best.
And yeah, and that's the way I kind of reconcile. I've done
Yeah.
that before too, and like I think that's the way you need to reconcile
Yeah.
it. It doesn't matter
No.
ultimately.
What's
What
done
matters
is
is
done,
now.
and you're here.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it changed your perspective.
It
it
did.
brought you through a journey
Amazing.
that ultimately brought you up.
Yeah,
You know, so
yeah. I'm so thankful for it.
yeah,
Yeah,
That's kind of in the sense of this year, because you had a following, right?
Yep.
So I kind of want to get into that a little bit. So from kind of where you took off from the ambulance, what was like the next steps of?
Well, then, yeah. So they tried to commit me for 6 months at that point into a psych ward, and the public defender. They gave me a public defender, and because I was like still like hardly talking and eating at that point, like I went into just like a catatonic, almost like state. And he's like, "Don't worry, I got you. Just don't say anything, because we're going to my hearing to be committed to a state hospital for 6 months." And when the judge like was like, "Okay, you aware that you're giving up your rights and all this stuff and everything?" The public defender was like, "Yep, say yes and everything." And I was like, "No, nuh-uh, I'm not doing that." I was like, "I want another independent psychologist outside of a court or the court setting
Sure.
to come look at me."
Yep.
And they did. And by that time, I had regained enough of like back down to earth grounding here in this dimension to where I could navigate, I could talk again, and I was able to get out of there after like 28 days.
No. Okay, good deal.
But then, I stopped smoking and kind of just really questioned everything at that point. And then I started getting, the vibes. The vibes were different around everyone I went. Like, Dylan just tried to kill himself. Like, no one really talked with me about that. It was just like, "Oh, it's good. You're doing good now, right? Like, you're good, man, right? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm tough, But it was never like, I never worked through that maybe, and no one around me knew how to do that. So it's no fault to anyone around me. They didn't know how to deal with that.
Right.
Dylan was seeing God and thought he should kill himself, and wow, I hope he just stays on his meds type of deal.
Right. Yep.
So, and then it happened again that next fall. Somehow, like, went right back into like the same kind of mindset, and everything. And and then the next year after that again, and I spent lots of months inside of psych wards, basically, because I did get committed 2 separate times for 6-month periods, which were reduced a little bit while I was in there. But I hadn't connected all these dots until like within this last month, 2 months, why this was happening to me around the same time of the year. And I finally traced it back because I've been doing the inner work of like, what do I not want to address about myself? And it's always been a breakup I had in high school, like a really ugly breakup around that same time, in that fall time. So going back to that, basically I had a girlfriend of like a year, thought she's the one. It was my first girlfriend ever. We were madly in love. And I was 1 year older, and I had gone to college, and we're going to make this work no matter what type of deal.
Yeah.
And I decided to come back. I drove 2 hours back, and I was going to surprise her with some jewelry and just a surprise visit from me. And I get there, and she's surprised, but she tells me like she's been thinking, and like it's just not going to work. We're going different ways, different paths. I did not see it coming at all, not at all. So like that absolutely destroyed me. And I drove back that night. Started drinking 151 or whatever just to drown it out. I didn't have a healthy coping mechanism. I'd never learned it.
Yeah.
And I just buried it. My friend's like, "Oh, you'll be fine, man." My dad's like, "Oh, there's a million other fish in the sea." Well, billions.
Just like a normal breakup.
Yeah, it's like it's not a big deal, right? And I didn't have really anyone there that was like, "Dude, I know what you're going through. That sucks." No one said that sucks. Like that would suck, It was just like, "Don't worry about it. Keep your head up, next play." Type of deal, where it's like, no, I need to go through that. I need to grieve it properly. It's just, and I think a lot of people can relate to that, whether a loved one died or anything like that, because that's what it felt like. I didn't cope with it properly. Christmas break came up a week later, maybe, still hadn't spoke, and I decided to throw the biggest party that I possibly could.
Oh, yeah.
Forget about it, let's get everyone here, invite your friends, have them invite their friends. In Baxter, not too far from here.
Yep.
I threw a party because my dad was out of town. He was at a Vikings-Packers game.
Like a typical high school story or something.
Yeah. Everyone invited everyone. Next thing you knew, there were cars lined up all down that street. I didn't care. I was like, whatever.
Yep.
And then I got super drunk, and this girl that was kind of known as getting around with everyone at that time, gravitated towards me. And next thing you know, like, just drunkenly hooked up, and because I had lost my virginity to this girl before that.
That was your main girlfriend?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So, and then just, drunk, like, hook up in a bathroom.
Sure.
Disgusting. But then, in the party, by the way, that party was wild. We had 16 dispatches come because the cops came. The cops came, and you wouldn't believe how many people were funneling out of that house. There was a foot of snow. My buddy with a broken leg at the time got away.
Just started running.
He got away on crutches out into the woods. Everyone dispersed everywhere. Everyone, like, my buddy was like, "Cops are here!" And someone like a third base coach was like waving people down the stairs out the window. And there was a whole group of people with the back sliding door. They're like, "Dude, we need to get out of here." They didn't know there was a foot lock on it. They were like trying to break the door open. I'm like, "You guys are all going down with me." And I was like, "I'm just kidding." I slid the lock, and like 8 people went out that way. And then, it was great.
You wake up the next morning, just tracks all over the place.
Yeah.
Jeez,
So
that's
like,
funny.
people left their shoes there. So the thing is, people left. The cops came. They searched the house. They didn't find 2 of the girls in my dad's closet that were buried in the clothes. They didn't see them. But then the cops, they left. They knew people were going to come back for their shoes, so they showed up again, and they busted a bunch of other people, including the 2 girls that were in my dad's closet that had escaped the flashlight and everything the first time.
They did the hardest part.
They did the hardest part, and then, cops came back, got a lot more people. I remember just watching Twitter that night because obviously, like, my mom picked me and my brother up and we're like, "You're coming home." And, I got minor for that, I think. Yeah, I was 19 at the time. But then fast forward to like 2 days later, I'm going back to college, and I get a text from my ex-girlfriend who says, "I really screwed up," and I'm like, "Now you're going to tell me this?" Like, I kind of cemented it, like I permanently did an action that I can't take back that is just going to be there between us, you know, and that would be a really hard thing to get over. And we did kind of try to like reconcile that, but it just wasn't the same. You know, I had done irreversible damage. And then I held on to that. You know, I didn't process that. I blame myself a lot. Like, you know, how could I be so dumb? I really screwed it up. Or like, and then blame it on her. Like, it was your fault for dumping me type of deal. And it wasn't a healthy way. So there was a lot of like, it stored like trauma, I would say, within myself that I drowned out with, you know, probably drugs too. And a lot of alcohol, a lot of drinking.
Yep.
So I didn't really connect this all until I've started doing all this healing work, this spiritual stuff that I'm coming onto, you know, because I know that to become whole again, I have to address all these things. And in my mind, you know, I didn't even want that name to pop up. That was like Voldemort and Harry Potter to speak that name around me or anything like that. It was just like, and I knew that wasn't healthy. And I have a wife. I've been married 3 years now. We have 2 kids.
Good deal, yeah.
And I never told her about, you know, my ex because I didn't want her to think like, oh, you loved somebody else before me. And, you know, I thought we had love at True Side and all those types of things. I didn't want her to be hurt. And finally, I just had to like tell her. I had to because that was a barrier between us and our love. So I told her about it and she handled it really well. And like this weight just like released from me. Like I wasn't holding on to that anymore. And it felt awesome.
Can I ask what it was? Like, can you try to explain what it is that you were holding? Like, were you scared?
I was holding resentment towards what happened, the breakup, the resentment with the way I handled it, you know, the resentment of why we couldn't reconcile it still because, you know, she hurt me, I hurt her, we should be even, right?
Right.
And we can get past that. And I wasn't seeing it from a higher perspective of even like, no, that happened for a reason too, because it's brought me to my current wife. It taught me a lesson, you know, it taught me about love and it was hard. It was really hard, but it's getting me to this place to where once that weight released after this long, it feels even better now. So
That's good.
That's crazy. That's another thing I want to kind of.
and like right now, I feel like this is a therapy session because even like right now, I've never gone into it this deep
I'm
other than
glad
my
you are.
wife.
You know,
My
like
wife, and I feel like I'm healing as we go right now.
Good.
Even more.
100%. I can connect to a lot to what for certain things that you're saying too.
Yep.
That it's like, dang, it's like
And that's the same. Like we all have different. You know, if we're not whole, then part of us is broken at some like whether that's a lot or a little, but we're all human, and like most of us have lost loved ones or we've done bad things to other people. That's probably the harder part is forgiving yourself for things you've done to other people. It might be easier to say, yeah, they treated me bad, but I don't hold it against you anymore. But if you treat someone else bad, it might be harder for you to be like, oh, why did I do that? You know,
is.
it's harder to forgive yourself.
Yeah, it is. It's easier to blame others.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just this way you don't have to really work on yourself, put in the efforts. Exactly what
there's
you were just explaining.
No accountability. But once you truly do that and you do feel that love and you love yourself, you can actually start to love yourself and like love that man in the mirror that you're looking at. Then it's easy to love other people. You know, that's like in our nature. Like if you're an angry person, you're going to see the anger in others. Or, gosh, I was just reading this quote this morning and it's evading me right now. But if you love yourself, it's easier to love others. If you're not okay with yourself, you might not be okay with others type of deal, like a projection.
yeah.
So if you're angry at yourself, you might take that out on others. But if you love yourself, you'll love others easily.
Yeah.
It's kind of like some stuff you told me this morning when you got here.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And
for
lots
the
of
quote.
guys, I feel like in this day and age, lots of guys don't do this, and we need to. You know, we need to sit around and talk about this. It's like, oh, just toughen it up, man. You're a man. We don't talk about that. You don't need to cry. But it's like, no, man, like that takes the true strength. The real strength is addressing that. Crying is not a weakness at all. That's literally like healing, man.
I think a lot of social media kind of determine, or you know, like it
Perceives it as
puts that picture in your mind. Like, no, that's not good.
Right.
Oh, you know, like,
and our
scared to
the
talk to
generation
people.
above us too, and even the generation above that too. So it's kind of like generational being passed down, and you call that a generational curse.
Yeah.
And it's time to break that and fix it.
Yeah.
You know, so we have the power, like we were talking about earlier, to do that. We have the decision to how are we going to respond to something, and that's where our power is at. Not reacting to something, like pretty much everyone does. It's how do we respond to it. It's okay to be angry. Like that's a natural feeling, but are you going to react with it, or are you going to hold a space where you say, I'm angry right now, and I'm going to think about it and, let it go in a healthy manner.
Sure. Going back to this therapy thing that you were saying. So
Mhm.
I have like this Bible verse thing, like every day it like pops up on
Yep.
my phone, you know?
Yep.
And
I had that going for a while.
you know what's so weird? Like, listen to this. I was just telling Riley, like, I get quotes randomly through the day, and it's like, that makes sense, like, with what's going on right now. Like, it's weird why it just pops up like that. But listen to this. This is the one for the day. Whoever has ears to hear, let them hear.
Yep.
That was for today.
Yep.
That was for today's one. Like, literally, like, it popped up on there.
Yep.
For that one.
And
Isn't that
I
weird?
said that this like when we got here too. I was like, because I was talking about how I get nervous, like when I talk, and I have to like go within meditation and be like, well, why are you nervous, Dylan?
Yeah.
Oh, because I want people to like me, and I want to help them. So I hope that they will accept the information and everything like that. But then go another layer deeper. It's like, dude, like that's selfish. Like, they can hear it if they want to or don't want to. You can't
Mhm.
force love onto anybody. Love doesn't force itself, which is why the commandments are also another thing you can get into.
That is my struggle right now with that. I think with
Commandments.
this, just wanting to be liked.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
like I think with this podcast too, it's really helping because it's like what do I think? Last time I checked YouTube, I have like 16 subscribers. Shout out to them guys.
Nice.
But it's
happy you guys are here.
but it's the I always thought that if I was liked, people would listen.
Yep.
You know, and I
Mhm.
think for this podcast, that's it changed it around for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I'm just gonna throw myself out there. Whoever wants to listen can listen.
Right.
Like it completely reversed the roles, and I
Yep.
think that it's a lot easier on me,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have to try.
Yep.
If that
Right.
makes any sort of
Yep.
sense.
That's what I'm finding with like the spiritual practice is just like becoming more of my authentic true self,
Yeah.
where it's like I become a free spirit where I'm not affected by other judgment. I'm just me. You can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Type
Yeah.
of deal. And,
Dylan,
like,
when I first met you too, remember we were outside, we are talking about this, and it probably the same conversation, and it was, why do I need them to like me? For
Yep.
selfishness.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah. It's a
we-
weird thing to think that that's selfish
Yeah.
because when all you want to do is like love or
Yeah.
like help.
And when
It's a
you
weird
said
way,
that,
yeah.
that stuck with me. Like
Mhm.
literally, that changed my way of thinking. Like as soon as you said that, something clicked. I'm like, dude, it's right when I called Trap too. Like I was hyped. You know, like
That's
it opened
awesome.
up a lot of views, and I'm like, dude, this guy, like,
Mhm.
wow,
Yeah, and
wow.
that's been the same for me. Just watching a lot of like these YouTube teachers in like the area of spirituality, like every day. Like I'm studying it. Like this takes work,
Yeah.
But it also takes work to not do the work because then you're just getting tossed around by every reaction all day long, and
Yeah.
that's draining.
Yeah.
But when you're consciously making like choices to be like, hey, it's not a very loving thought right now. Is that thought based from love or not? And then you can just kind of requalify it and be like, what would love think or say or do in this situation? And it takes work. It does, but it gets easier too because you start to reprogram
Just
your
working
your
it.
brain. Even
Yeah.
I think neurologists say like it takes 21 days to a new habit.
Form a habit.
A new
yeah.
habit because your neurons are forming different pathways.
Mhm.
You can do that with becoming a more loving person and a more conscious person.
Ain't that crazy? It's
Yeah.
3 weeks, but yet it's such a hard thing to practice if
It
on
is.
certain things, you know.
I'd be lying if it was just like, dude, just go into meditation and
Right.
just be love. It's not. It's hard because you gotta address the inner stuff,
Mhm.
and some of us have more inner stuff than others.
Yeah.
So
That's actually been my new thing. Actually, even the wife at home doesn't even know this, but literally, like this last week, it's been so nice out. Just
Mhm.
beautiful weather, and we've been cutting trees at work, and sometimes I get a free minute away from everyone and just quiet. And literally, sometimes I just go and I literally just find like a stump or something and sit down in the sun, and I would literally just like in my head there was like meditation kind of where I just close my eyes and I'd sit tall and straight, and I'd just take like big deep breaths in of like there would almost be like my affirmations in a way, and then I would exhale the bad out.
Yep.
But that's what I would tell myself. Like I would like inhale like positive vibes, and then I would exhale.
That's exactly
like,
that's
literally. I
teach my kids that right now.
Oh, really?
Yep. When they get angry or upset, it's breathe in the flowers through the nose and blow out the candles.
Really?
A lot of breath work is big and affirmations, because you are. Like I am, and every day before my son goes to school, we do affirmations. I am brave. I am strong.
Yep.
Good.
I love people. People
Yeah.
love me. Like things like that
Yeah,
of that
yep,
nature.
yep.
Every morning.
And
'Cause-
with like the breath work and stuff too, or whatever.
Lots of people are constantly negatively reaffirming things like, "Oh, I'm not good enough," or
Yeah,
that's where practicing this can literally change your life.
Yeah.
Because when you realize you are a perfect eternal being, from God, it's just like, and I'm having this human experience, and God's love is limitless for me and unconditional. It takes a lot of pressure off of trying to be someone like trying to measure up to anything, because you don't need to measure up to anything.
Yeah. That's
And what you're saying, and too, like those Bible verses that pop up, I think I haven't had them on for a while, but I did for years. And you probably had one pop up that was like, "Be still and know that I am God," type of
Yep,
deal.
yep.
And that's where, meditating, it's hard to describe. It's like a feeling of ecstasy. It's a feeling of oneness, and it is like rest. Your soul feels rest when you're in that just complete silence.
Still, yeah. Just,
Like you said on that stump, like being part of nature,
yeah.
which nature's another topic, but
Yeah.
That's you got something?
No, but it is like you just like even afterwards, like just it'd even just be like a couple minutes of that, and then just when you get done, like you just feel good.
you're
You feel
humming. Your
good.
vibe is you're
Yeah.
like humming. It's just
Yeah.
like
You feel good.
It's like
you
I am
know?
one, and everything is God, and you can start to see the divine in others. Like namaste means the divine in me recognizes the divine in you, type of deal. And when you can look at someone and be like, "This is a divine, beautiful creature of God, just like I am," you can see them differently. Even bad people, are still beautiful in that way, that they have that spark of God, the essence of God within them.
Yeah.
They just don't know it. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, as they're nailing Jesus to a tree or a cross.
Yeah.
Because our perceptions create our reality, and they just don't know who they are.
Yeah.
That's why they do those things. They're in a state of separation consciousness rather than like unity or oneness consciousness.
Did you had a YouTube channel, correct?
I had one. Yep. And I have another one right now with a few thousand subscribers that at some point I plan on get going.
Wow.
I had one with like 70,000 and that got banned. I had a Twitter with, I think, 350,000, almost 400,000 that got banned. I had an Instagram with about 400,000 that got banned. But it all got banned after I came out of politics and denounced all of it. But I was into like some fringe, like conspiracy, like cultish type stuff. Like if you ever heard of QAnon, like I was like a head like cheerleader without knowing it, like in that like group. Like I was traveling to places like DC and giving speeches on like QAnon because I love the power to the people concept, and like there's a lot of great things in it, for sure.
I don't know QAnon. What is that?
QAnon is started out as like just these messages on 4chan or 8chan, and basically claim to be like white hats within the government, working against the cabal, the dark side, and claiming that Trump was a white hat, and they're working together with them for like mass arrests to take place and actual change to happen within government.
So you're kind of going against the grain?
Yeah. Yeah. And like that was like, because social media was like, this is false information and things like that,
Sure.
which is what got me banned eventually.
So how did that kickstart? Like, how did you? So you're doing politics, right?
Well, it kickstarted when I was in a halfway home getting ready to come back out of my stint in a psych ward. I started up a Twitter account that I called The Thoughtful Tweeter. And I was just like, I need somewhere to put all these thoughts because obviously therapists aren't going to listen to me. Friends aren't going to listen to me. I just need like a diary almost to put things out there. And I wanted people to hear them too. So I studied how to get people to follow back, how to put out good content. And eventually, that thing didn't go very far. But I've realized like, and there was a lot of plagiarism too. Like it was just quotes, like, famous quotes that made so much sense. And I would just put them out there maybe as my own or add like my 2 cents to that quote and take it a little deeper type of deal to kind of make it my own. But it wasn't the inspiration came from somewhere else. And like people were digging that, and I was getting likes and, follows because I'd follow people that were in like, these spiritual, posting the same kind of quotes, and they'd see my page and be like, oh, okay, this is nice, I'll follow it. And it didn't go too far after that. But then in 2016, when Trump declared that he was running, my buddy came over and told me about how he started a Twitter account called The Libologist. And he said he was diagnosing liberals with their mental disorders. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. And so I was like, I got to get one of those. And I was like, gosh, what do liberals need, man? What do they need? I was like, they need to be educated, that's for sure. So I came up with the moniker, or whatever, the pseudonym of Educating Liberals. And I started, and then from the experience I had with the Thoughtful Tweeter, I was like, how do I get this thing to grow? Because I'm getting sick of like just arguing one-on-one with people out here. Like, I want to take what I know to the masses type of deal. And so I started, I knew that like having good quality content was key. So in the political realm, I would go on to say Facebook, maybe I'd hop over to Facebook, Fox News. What's the latest news that's being pumped out? What are the top comments? Because they've already been upvoted so many times, this connects with a certain audience. I'm going to take that idea. Maybe I'll paste it verbatim. I didn't care at that point. Yeah. Or I'd, spin it off into my own words, but same idea. And I started following people that were very active on there and political, that were obviously conservative, and they'd see my tweet. Oh, I got a retweet, a like, and I got like 5 on that one. Cool. And kept following, and I'd get like a 40-50% follow back rate. And there was an algorithm on Twitter where you couldn't follow more than 5,000 people until you had at least 5,000 followers yourself. So I didn't know how to break that. And then I looked up, I'm going to just buy some fake ones if I can. And I did that, and it worked. I spent probably $100 and I got like 25,000 followers added to my account. And then I just kept the process of following people and hitting on those follows and the good quality like content in the, for conservatives to like. And it just started to snowball. And like those 25,000 turned into like 50,000. And I knew that was like, there's 30,000 real people there. Yeah. And I kept doing the following. And next thing is like, there's 100,000 real people following these tweets right now. And I'm like, this is insane. This is absolutely insane. And yeah, that just kept blowing up, and it did blow up. And then, you start to make connections with other influencers in that realm. And I did that from 2016 to 2020. So a good 4-year run. And I started making videos. I had a Patreon. People would fly me out places just to speak, and I didn't like doing that. Like we talked about before this podcast, how I'd have to drink just to calm those nerves.
Was that public speaking or
public
like
speaking?
podcast?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
really?
in
So
front
it was
of
like live
a couple
audience.
hundred people, there to
damn,
put a conservative event. Yeah.
Wow.
I remember the one where the guy who asked me to come speak, who flew me out there, put me in a hotel, and like 15 minutes before I was going to go on, he smelt the fireball on my breath. Yeah. He's like, "Are you drinking?" I was like, "Nah, cinnamon gum." We're good. We're good. But I went up there and I did good, and it was fun. I wouldn't have been able to do that. Like, this is my first time, like we talked, of like being in front of a microphone while not impaired or under the influence of anything other than like maybe a little caffeine from this morning.
Well, congrats.
Yeah.
Congrats. That's
thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it is awesome.
So, I mean, you were really building up a following, and people were flying you out, and you're doing, wow.
Collectively accounted at one time, it was 1.3 million followers across.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's a big platform.
yeah,
That's a big platform.
it was big. And then, like I said, I got into the QAnon stuff, and I really went hard at that because that takes me back to my first spiritual awakening when I looked into 9/11 and things that just didn't add up and make a lot of sense, which got me to see like the really dark side of the rabbit hole type stuff of governments, everything like that. And unfortunately, I put a lot of my energy and time into looking at all the negative rather than focusing on the light and letting the light cause the dark to vanish type of deal.
Yep.
I was trapped in there and just trying to beat it and defeat it, But when you're trying to beat something, now you're pulled down to playing that game.
Yep.
Don't play the game at all. Just focus on being the light, the outcome you want to be. You don't have to acknowledge the other side if you don't want to. But if you're going to, at least make sure you have your grounding too, that you don't get caught in it.
So, was there like big influencers that were kind of in that same realm?
Yeah,
Like-
well, at that point, like towards 2020, like I was talking to Donald Trump Jr. probably every other week.
Phone calls, texting, or what?
On Twitter. I met
Okay.
him too once. I got
Really?
invited. And then it was actually getting to the point where I was going to speak at the same event as him. I was lined up to do all that stuff. Like it was starting to get like larger than life for me.
Wow.
Yeah, Trump retweeted one of my tweets. So I had the president retweet me at one point. I remember freaking out, like it happened, and like I got it blown up. I cropped that tweet and I had it, pinned on my wall
Oh,
in like a
yeah.
huge one. I cared so much about all that, and like it's exciting, I guess.
Yeah,
know.
it is.
cool.
Then he retweeted another one where I doctored a photo for Instagram, where I was kind of like, I can't remember what I did, but I used the Instagram tool to like block out an edge and like do all this stuff. And then I threw that out onto my Twitter and Instagram, and someone took it and they tweeted it, and then Trump retweeted it, President Trump at the time. So I was like, there's another indirect one, like retweet.
So
Um,
with Donald Trump Jr., like, what did you guys talk about, or like, why did he reach out to you, and what was his reason?
Well, he said that he loved what I was doing, and he would give indirect like confirmation that Q is a real thing, but we just don't talk about it,
Sure.
type of deal.
yeah,
So like it was really wild, and like the QAnon stuff, I was a drop at least 4 times. Q said that it was connected directly with General Flynn, who was part of the National Department of Defense or something like that under Obama, and he was appointed under Trump for a moment in his cabinet, and then there was a witch hunt that happened against General Flynn. But I actually met General Flynn and took a picture with him, and he told me he's never felt safer than with the hands of patriots like me behind his back. We took a photo, and then QAnon posted that photo on the board, and like QAnon's followed by millions of people.
yep.
So I started getting recognition in that realm, and then started, leading our own QAnon events, speaking events to come together for awareness of what our government's doing and how we, the people, are the only way that can stop any of this by coming together. So there was like really great intent on my part, which is why I don't regret any of it. Like I was never like trying to rip people off or anything like that. I was trying to save the world,
Right.
type of deal.
Doing good. Yep.
Yeah. But then, the drops kept coming, and then the COVID stuff happened, and Trump just kept pushing and pushing that vaccine. And like, I couldn't do the mental gymnastics to justify that because I had looked into it too much. And that's where finally something clicked. And I'm like, this is messed up. He's part of it. He's part of the same ring. He's just, or part of the same bird, just on the different wing, like the 2 parties, 2 wings, same bird, but it's just political theater, no different than WWE. At the end of the day, they're all billionaires who get along at the top of this circle, but they put on a show that keeps us divided and fighting with each other, so we don't recognize that we're all one and based in love, or recognize their lies. We just keep directing it at each other, which is what they want.
So Trump was for the vaccine.
Yeah, he said, he quote unquote, I am the father of the vaccine.
Was he not saying it's not good? Did
Well,
he say that?
He
or I
would
just
speak
make
out
this
of
up?
both sides of his mouth, but
Huh.
ultimately he wanted all the credit for it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Really?
And when you start to look into everything, I haven't for a while, but we went like 3 times further into debt under Trump than Obama. Like things happened like fiscally, like the housing market, gas prices, like things were good financially.
Yeah.
In a way, but that was kind of a cover as well, because now we're living in this post-COVID world where it almost seemed like COVID was like a test run on the masses
I agree.
type of deal.
I agree.
And I started just seeing this bigger game that was being played out and realizing, oh my gosh, like I have been unknowingly part of this in a way, the divide. Look at my name, educating liberals. How is that not divisive?
Right.
How does that not speak of like arrogance or haughtiness or
Yeah.
being better than thou, like type of deal? And I had just had all these realizations, and at that point, when I got banned, I started a Patreon, and I was gonna be a crowdfunded journalist type deal. I think I still had my Instagram at that point. Yeah, I got banned off Twitter, and then the support started really rolling in, and I started making really decent money, more money I've ever made in my life on Patreon, being crowdfunded by people who just wanted to support me and see me go to places and do all this stuff. But yeah, I couldn't reconcile the vaccine being pushed by Trump, and I really started looking into him and how he's connected. Him and Hillary are cousins, and
What?
looking back, yeah,
Hillary and Trump are cousins.
yes, you can look into that. And you can also look into his ties. He still to this day donates to the Clinton Foundation, or at least he did a couple years ago. While he's saying that she's a terrible person, that she should be locked up, it's all just theater. We didn't lock up anybody.
Yeah.
So I got to ask now, how is it that you got your information? You know, like, was this something that the CBS told you? It's like, I'm sure, like, with the fall that you had, like, it was a solid source.
Yeah.
So, like, was it someone?
Well, no, it wasn't nothing mainstream. It would be alternative media, people who have been, you could call them truthers for even decades of their life. There's certain people out there that I would follow, and I would kind of understand what's happening, or I thought I could understand what's happening in the game that's being played out. I didn't see there was a game being played out against me in a sense.
Yeah.
And so, like, I completely straight up, I made a 2-hour video explaining myself, and I'm like, guys, I'm done with politics. Like, I don't know what the future holds, but I can't go to bed at night collecting money from anybody while not believing in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And, like, I couldn't, like, second guess in my mind, like, Trump, and then be out here, you know, as a conservative influencer pushing this stuff, because I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. It would be on
Yeah.
my conscience. You know, and I had to listen to that, and there was no amount of money that you could pay me to not listen to my conscience. So I walked away.
Was there?
And then I got called a shill. I got called paid off. Like, the hate really started rolling in. Compromised. He was an agent. You know, like, all these things.
Yeah.
I'm just like, no, dude. Like, I had death threats on my child and my
really?
wife. Yeah.
So it's
people saying
getting
they're
pretty
going to
serious.
find me and, kill me.
Jeez.
So
Yeah,
was there any dark, like, higher ups that wanted you to perform something?
No,
against-
but it was starting to get to that point, I think, as I climbed that political ladder into the inner circle. I was getting to that point. But, like, I think they knew that they didn't need me to be there because of the work I was already doing and spreading one side of the political spectrum.
So you were
to be
kinda
divisive. I was
doing
already
it.
doing it
Sure.
unknowingly.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, like, thank God I didn't get put into the position of, like, why don't you come into this back room, and let's really discuss some things, like, we'll give you more money and power, wealth and fame than you can ever imagine, or even being, like, twisted in that position to, like, this is how it's going to go down now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your family might be in jeopardy or something.
Yeah, no kidding.
Thank God I didn't get into that room. So,
Do you think there's something?
because think of that being a celebrity, and it's like you've sold your soul in a way, like you got in over your head before you knew what was happening, and people have compromised you, like, maybe drugged you up. This is the thing with the Epstein Island and all that, all these celebrities going out there so they can drug them up, do terrible things, videotape them, can blackmail them so they don't come out. If they do come out, as part of, like, that Illuminati oath or the Freemasons, like, everything's supposed to be secret. Otherwise, it's at the expense of death.
Yep.
Like, you'll be murdered or somebody else you love. So now put yourself in that situation. What are you supposed to do as one of these celebrities? Like, you're not going to risk your child's life.
Yeah.
You're just going to play it out how you need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you do come out, you tend to get murked, Lots
Yeah.
of Michael Jackson came out. Prince started talking about chemtrails. Amy Winehouse. There's a lot of evidence out there if you
Yeah.
really start looking into it. I've looked at all that for so long that I'm just ready to focus on the light and just
Yeah.
the light and being that light, because, like I said, when we only focus on the light, darkness will naturally vanish.
Yeah.
But we all need to do that individually first, here become the light, and then we'll collectively become the light. And that would be, in my opinion, heaven on earth, which is a frequency. Heaven is a frequency, a state of mind. You can be living in heaven right now, or you can be living in a state of hell, which is a frequency, because like we were talking about, all that goes with you is your spirit and, like, your consciousness attached to your spirit. That's who we really are. So
Yeah. Dang. That's a whole nother thing too. Just like you said, it's very, very easy to get wrapped up into that negative energy. That's why I don't watch the news. I don't on any social media. I don't pay attention to none of the negative stuff, because even right now, I am in a growing stage, mentally, physically, everything, where I don't want any I don't like being around negative people. I don't like negative energy. I don't want it. It's so easy. Like, I'm in such a fragile state of mind in a way. And this has been going on for a year and a half yet, and I'm still.
But you're also aware of that, which
Learning.
is showing, like, growth, because you're setting healthy boundaries for yourself. The media is 90% negative headlines.
Yeah.
which is promotes what? Fear and like the survival instinct, and and that turns on the ego and the idea of just me, me, me. I need to look out for myself here.
Yeah.
So it's a big game of frequency going on, and that's kind of being disturbed by the media
Yeah.
and politics. Pretty much every major institution, even the drugs from big pharma will put you at a lower state.
That's a whole
School
that's-
will put you in your left side of your brain, which is the analytical and not the creative.
That's right. I heard
Side.
that a few times.
Yeah,
Yep.
everything is actually inverted when we look at it.
Yeah. Wasn't school actually by who created school? Wasn't it Rockefeller?
Rockefeller introduced, I think, when public school was invented. I'm not sure, it was in the earlier 1900s, but he was in charge of like the textbooks, what we're going to be learning, and their version of of history that happened. And he's on record saying, I just want a nation of obedient workers, just smart enough to think of how to run the machines and stuff like that. Because they do occasionally say what they really want to happen. And Rockefeller's also in the hands of big pharma too, directly, because all our pharmaceuticals are oil-based, and all the textbooks within academia for becoming, a doctor or anything like that, like they're not going to talk about like holistic perspectives. We're going to always talk about treating the symptoms rather than the root causes of things, because that's what generates money, keeping people just sick enough, to stay alive, but to keep coming back
Yeah.
as customers, rather than being like holistic. Let's start with your diet, start with your mind.
Right.
Where are we at with all this stuff? Let's get to the root cause, and then we'll heal
Yep.
naturally. Instead, we suppress all that. And I don't think a lot of these doctors are trying to do that with ill will. It's just like they were indoctrinated. Some, though, for sure, like some, because there's kickbacks on the certain amount of vaccines that they give out and things like that. So the ones that are just glued to like me and money and material wealth, they'll do bad things like that then.
yeah.
They don't see the divine in anyone else.
No, and that's a whole nother thing too, where you think of even like therapists and stuff too. Think of it.
Yep.
Like, why would you fully cure? That's your customer. Like, these are your
Yeah.
customers. Why
Right.
would they fully want to cure someone? You
That's
know what I
your
mean?
job security.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's like, oh, you come back for another one. It's like, okay, you're gonna need to work on this here, and then they might plant a seed in your head too. They could fully when you're in a fully fragile state of mind like that too. When you do need help, like you truly do need someone there for you.
Yeah.
And if you I'm not saying that all of them are that way, but I'm saying, but just if you think of the big picture and step back for it and look at it, it makes perfect sense for everything. Just as you said, the pharmacy, like
Everything.
all of these things, everything plays in a line where it's
Right.
like they don't. Why do you think it's okay? I mean, you look at these big models nowadays. You know what I mean? Like how they're pushing it, and it's like, you know what I mean? To be
Promoting body
unhealthy,
positivity.
yeah.
Like
Why-
good is bad and bad is good. The times that
Yeah.
we're living in. But these are also amazing times because we're sitting around here with a podcast and this information of getting back to our roots and who we truly are and recognizing the game that's being played against us. I don't see anything stopping this. If we go into like we're into a new age now of Aquarius, which is also the age of knowing as of like 2012. So like we're only 10 years into this 2100 year period of Aquarius. And the age of information makes perfect sense to me with the internet and how it's so easy to find information, anything you're looking for out there, but we're also drowned in a flood of misinformation.
Yeah.
So navigating that is a little bit difficult, but there are more and more and more people that are, you could say, waking up to everything.
So is that good?
Yeah.
So is that like okay? So since 2012,
That's what the Mayans
What's
had on their
happening?
calendar and everything, which would be the end of days. But, and Christians believe, or a lot of them believe, that the end of days is just the end, the earth and everything like that. Jesus comes back, God. But it's really not. Like, it's a cycle, and like it's not linear. It's not a beginning and end time. It's a circle. The beginning is actually the end is actually just the beginning of something new.
Yeah.
Something different. And like the millennial reign that's talked about, because that would be a heavenly frequency found on earth.
So is that like the whole like the 2012? Like, is this the new world order? You think is that where that
Well-
kind of like started? They think, or like is
New
that
World
where they-
Order plan started like probably since the beginning of since mankind fell. Trying to put this into order. Yeah, I don't know how to go into that one.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a
I
tough
mean, they have a plan. These elites, these families that control all the wealth in the
Mhm.
world, the trillionaires.
Yeah.
While we're down here, working a 9 to 5, no time to even think about what's happening. It's just like, oh, so done. I'm so glad I'm done with this 40-hour week. I'm
Mhm.
ready to just drink for a little bit and
Yeah.
party. I don't want to talk about these things. Like
Mhm.
I don't want to research things. I just want to forget for a moment
Mhm.
about my crappy life or whatnot.
I
And
agree.
that's why they say
And
that.
that's why they are successful in a way.
And that's why I totally believe too, like the rat race. I think of that. I like to step back and just kind of look at it. Like even when I go down to like Minneapolis, sometimes, like if we got to go pick up something, whatever, you know what I mean? Go down there, and you just watch, like, because it's a bigger population than what we're used to around here, and you just watch, and it's like it is a freaking rat race.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it is. And you watch it. Everyone's in a hurry to get to their job, to get to here, to go to there. You just step back and you do look, and it's like, even here, it's everywhere. It's
Yeah.
everywhere's the rat race. Just like you said.
Yeah.
You go to your job, you're there, you're for 8 hours, you come back, go do this for a little bit, and you just, okay, let's hurry up for the weekend. Hurry up for the week. It's like,
You're
really,
drained.
what kind of a
Yeah.
life is it? Like, what kind of a life is that?
Right, and that's the point. You got to get to the point where you question, what is this?
You know?
What is life? What is the meaning of all of this? Which is why certain trials get put in our way. That's God, that's the universe helping us wake up. Like that's what karma is. That's what reaping what you sow is. If you treat other people bad, then that same energy is going to come back onto you in a certain way or
Mhm.
form until you finally put out good energy and good love. And then you'll start receiving good energy and
Like
good
that law
love.
of attraction,
Yeah.
Law of
right?
attraction.
Yep.
Yep. Karma, reaping what you sow. So that's what we're talking about with different religious books. Karma is the same thing in Buddhism as reaping what you sow is in Christianity.
Hmm.
Christianity doesn't really teach reincarnation though, but the other like half of the world believes in reincarnation
Mhm.
because of the other religions. And actually, if you really go into history, the early Christians did believe in that concept. Like they knew it as being the truth. But then Rome got involved and picked, what they were going to put into this textbook to call the Holy Bible.
Mhm.
And then they removed books in like the 1800s. It's like you have people saying this is the divine, infallible word of God, and it's literal. It's like, so how did some books get taken out then? They're no longer divine? Like God changes? There's just so many questions and angles you can go at like Christians, and I'm not trying to like be mean to them. I just want them to like think, because I know if they thought through it, it could free them from the fear-based belief system that they're trapped in.
Yeah.
Because so one question, sorry, I just
you're
got a lot
good,
to talk
you're good.
about. So if God was omnipotent, knows our beginning from our end, and yet he tortures people who screw up in this life eternally in a place called hell, wouldn't he be complicit in all of it for creating us in the first place? He would have known that we would have made the decisions and everything that ended us up into being punished by him forever, which would make him a psychopath.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
in that
And
way.
that's the one. That's probably the biggest one that I keep going back to, and I try to get people to follow along with it, and then they're just like, whoa, that doesn't make sense. But then they say, oh, God's ways are higher than ours, or they just shut it
Yeah.
off. But if you truly think about it, you can be like, no, like God's love isn't limited by anything. It's limitless. So he's not going to let anyone ever suffer in any kind of eternal punishment, especially for like a temporary deal.
Mm-hmm.
How can you punish someone eternally for something that happened temporary? That's not a very fitting punishment.
That's true.
So you can really start to look in and you start to get the real nature of what God is, which is just love. It's straight love and it's limitless. So I believe in universal salvation. Everyone will be saved, because if they're not, it would mean that God's love is limited in some kind of way.
That's true. When you put it that way, that's
So,
a good perspective.
Just
really.
walking
That's-
through those exercises like
Yeah.
that. And then it's awesome because like, it feels good. That should feel good. And you shouldn't have to worry about your friends and family like going to this place called hell. It's just like, hey, they're on a different part of their spiritual walk.
Mhm.
Everything happens for them for a reason. I'm here. If you need me, I'll be the example of what it's like, hopefully, to be in alignment with God and what love is. I'm here for you. But I don't have to worry that you're going to be punished forever, eternally.
Yeah.
So,
With that law of attraction, I know when you first come here, you kind of seen the podcast table when you're asked about it. Whatever, just kind of
Well,
bringing that up. Go ahead.
sorry, I was just saying in the beginning, like how the universe works like that, and like a law of attraction. I was at the point, it was a couple months ago,
Yep.
where I'm like, I really want to start getting back into this stuff and doing this. And I saw your podcast room and I was like, what? And we were already vibing. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh man. I'm like, I know this is God. Like, this is the law of attraction for sure.
Like, it was wild.
Yeah.
Like, it was
And it's,
mind blowing. I mean, like, I was not expecting this, dude. I
Mhm.
was looking to get like a home appraisal, which I got one,
yeah.
But it's like I thought your old man was coming.
Yep.
Because I was talking on the phone. You could tell he's an older gentleman. Just you could tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get here, you seen the table. I started talking about that, and you were thinking of kind of starting this up again for what is it, like, spreading the message in a way?
Yeah. I mean, basically what you guys are trying to do, you guys have something to share.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have something to share. And it's like it's almost like you could say a purpose, a calling. It's like to share what I've been through and my experiences. And maybe that can help somebody.
I think
Type
it
of
will.
deal.
You're very good at speaking. You
Yep,
get the
thank you.
message across, and if you don't understand, like, you explain it where I can understand. I mean,
That's
it's all-
awesome.
It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
not words talking. You want them to hear
There's
the
a meaning
message.
behind everything you
Yeah.
say,
Yep.
for sure.
That's awesome. And it's materialized or manifested. It's manifested to this right now. And like we were talking before, like you have to take desired action towards something. You can't just think it and feel it. Like that's part of it, living in that moment as if you've already accomplished, everything you set out to do.
Mm.
But you have to take the desired actions or the necessary actions along the way. Like me showing up here
Yeah.
and getting over of being nervous and speaking not under the influence. So like this morning I woke up and part of me was like, no, you got stuff to do today. You can just tell them we'll do it another time. Then I don't have to deal with being
Mhm.
uncomfortable type of deal.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then I was like, that's exactly why I need to go. And I was like, whatever happens, happens. And, I meditated on the way here saying,
Mhm.
you don't have to force anything. Whatever happens, happens. Like those words would be coming from my heart.
Dude.
So,
I believe those words. There's a book. Napoleon Hill wrote it. Is it Think and Grow Rich? I think that was a book he wrote,
Mhm.
and he kind of said exactly what you just said. There is, you take action, or 'cause it starts with an idea, and
Mhm.
it's up to you to take action.
Yep.
'Cause other than that, it's exactly what you just said. Nothing gets done.
right.
That
Right.
dream you have, it don't go forward.
It starts in the mind though, getting those thoughts right. And
Yep.
then when you have your thoughts, which are like the electric coming from the brain, and then you have the heart, when you start to feel it, then that's what's magnetic. And that's, electromagnetism, like which holds the universe together type of deal. I forgot where I was going with this one. I need to study back into that area. But
Uh-oh.
that's how you like manifest things. It's with your thoughts and your feelings matching up. And then you're naturally, when those are synced up, you're going to be doing actions that are in line with that to get you to where you're going to where you already feel like you're at.
Yeah. That's where I give credit to Trev. Because with that book and with the real estate investing that you're taking on, like, yeah, we talked about it, we read about it, listened to it, but it's like with Trev actually taking the actions and moving forward, getting the units and whatnot. And I could let you
Yeah.
talk about that too. Is he's not just bullshitting me?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yep.
like I hold him to a higher. I look at him as in influence.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone could read anything, but it's up to you to take the action.
Yep. Yep.
And it's fucking, because he's on his second property now.
Yeah.
Within a year. Like, that's fucking,
'Cause you're doing it.
you're doing it.
You're
Yeah. like,
doing it.
Trying.
And that gets like that feeling gets contagious, or you want to just keep doing it
Yeah.
and keep doing it.
It does. It inspires me.
And when it's coming from the right place, that's good. Obviously, if it's coming from a place of I just want as much money as I can get, and like me, that might be a bad place. But when you're doing it out of a place of like selflessness
Mhm.
and like for the collective and to be an inspiration to others, then absolutely do it up, do it big.
Ultimately, what I love about it, and I truly do, and it's not just me. Like, and I say this every time. Like, I have to thank my dad, Riley, like my family. My family helps me with
Mhm.
all of it. The wife, but the kid, everything. Like, it's never just me. And I say that before, and I truly do mean it because I couldn't do it without him, and I do mean that.
Right.
But really, with it kind of going to that manifestation thing that you were talking about earlier, my first time that I experienced something that was just like mind blowing for me when I first experienced was I bought the first little property, whatever, up in Little Falls there, and I took off a week of work just to cause I had to rehab it and stuff, whatever. So I just took off a week of work, touch up some stuff. And it was the weirdest thing that happened that week because I needed the air ducts cleaned. So I messaged MN Air Duct and whatever, and I was like, hey, I kind of was like wheeling and dealing with him on price a little bit just because everything's on a butt,
Yep.
And then I was like, all right, cool. And I just let it be. It was a little bit higher for what I was wanting to pay. And then literally that night it was a couple nights later, I was just talking to Sarah, my wife, about it in the car like earlier. Like, man, if they would just lower it just a little bit more, like it would be okay. That night, they texted me saying, hey, we'll do it for this price.
Mhm.
And I'm like, dang, like, okay, like that was one thing in the book. I'm like, so we did it.
Yep.
And made a deal on that. And then it was like the next day later, just randomly, this real estate investor coming around and he looks for properties, like looks for like people what I was doing for like more deals up in the later on in the future. And I'm just like he just randomly stopped in. Like I'm in this small little area. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he
Yep.
comes over
Mhm.
and then he's like talking to me about he's like, you're the perfect guy that I'm looking for this stuff. And like there was one more thing I can't remember.
And he wasn't even around the area. Like he didn't
He
live
was
around
just
here.
from St. Cloud or whatever. He was just like happened to buzz by. And
That's not coincidence. That is
No.
the law of attraction. That is like doors opening. The doors that you're like manifesting into, opening for you, which is really cool. Like-
Yeah. And then the other crazy thing was I went to go pick up a stove or something for the property too.
Mhm.
And then we ended up meeting another guy named Ryan, and I got talking to him. I went to go pick it up, and he swings in. We go look at the stove, and he runs like property management area. I never knew that. Just got talking to him, seeing what he does. And then Riley, he went up and dropped off the oven, and then Riley helped me, and he come back with me, and we talked to the dude. Same thing, like what you and Riley. We ended up like connecting on a whole new level, and like he said the same thing. Like I don't believe anything just happens by consequence. Like it happens for a reason.
Yeah.
The same thing. Like we were talking for like 3 hours there
Yeah.
in the summer, like one day, and we were just there to pick up a fridge or an oven.
It's amazing how you can just keep retracing all of it back too.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like I was just talking to my wife how I wanted to, podcast or something. Like I'm itching to get back into it. And that day I met Riley.
Yeah.
That was
the
that
podcast.
day. You said you told
It was either that day or like the day before.
Man, that's wild.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
And that's how you
weird.
know. It's like that's not a coincidence. That doesn't happen. And then the person with the podcast is you too, which was, you're obviously
Yeah.
so easy to talk to. And
That is wild.
But that's
I
like-
didn't know that. Huh.
That's the craziest thing, though. It is. It's like that whole week. It was all happening like that. Like everything was so close together, and it was even Sarah too. She's like, I don't know what the hell is going on, but she's like, that's not like I don't know what's going on, but this is weird. Like
Mhm.
everything was lining up, and it was like,
it's cool.
oh my god,
It's cool. Thank you, God.
Yeah, for real. That's what I told my dad too, and these guys, like I think it's like everything that I've been like manifesting, like is like it's like it's I can't believe it, like everything. But it's like little things, but it was like big things though.
Yeah.
Like it may have been little to someone, but to me it was like this is like what I say and I like pray in the morning, or like this is like what I talk about all the time, and now it's like here, or I'm getting a deal on this from this company, and I give them a shout out, and it's like I just make these connections with. It's just weird. It's
Yeah,
just
you were
weird.
sending the energy out there, and the universe opened the doors back to you,
Yep.
and then you walked through it
Yeah, it's weird.
in a way. Like
It's trippy.
it's awesome.
It is. It is.
It's
like-
awesome.
it's like you feel so good, and it gives
Yeah.
you like that motivation even more. And it's like,
yeah,
all right, you
Yeah.
know, it's like this is great. Like
shows you
more
that
more
you're.
positive vibe, or it's like it's more makes you want to do more better or more good. It's
It
like,
shows you the power of like your own creativity, of
really
being a
does.
creator.
Yeah.
yeah,
Most people don't know they have this within them at all. They're just, they're like subconscious controls their mind, and they react throughout their day. They're getting blown around in the wind, rather than being like, wait, who am I? What do I want? What are these feelings? Is this a healthy relationship I'm in? Doing things like that, not
Yep.
protecting their own energy and healing themselves.
Yeah.
So they're just a kind of a victim of life.
really. I mean, really, and it's sad because I'm still like it's self growth all the time. Like still, like I am still climbing the ladder. I'll probably always be climbing the ladder of just self development.
Right.
Mean, obviously,
That's the thing. It leads that feeling of knowing like God is awesome, God is love. You want to keep like improving yourself and like your energy and your vibrations and becoming more and more in alignment with source of true source, like
Yep.
like Jesus.
Yep.
You want to keep going towards that
Yep.
point.
And that's like totally true. I mean, just in general, like you're people that like I want to be around. Like good energy, good vibes, good intent, good. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
you want more, you want better, you want to just do better, or you know what I
The
mean?
law of attraction will start to bring these people into your life
Yeah.
too.
And it's crazy because it's hard to find genuine people.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
there's a lot of nice people out there. Don't get me wrong, but finding someone like when you can just bullshit with the parking lot for 3 hours
Mhm.
and like have like a good connection.
Yeah.
You know, like you kind of understand what everyone's.
I've been looking
Same.
at houses for off and on for like 12 years now.
Yep.
And I've talked to people occasionally here and there, but like it was never like 2 hours about God,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
like spirituality and just vibing back and forth.
Yeah. That's
So-
exactly what. Yeah.
So yeah, that's not a coincidence that it happened shortly after I was like, ooh, I'm feeling led to like get back into the realm, you know,
yeah.
of
God, that's crazy though, because even with when we were talking to Ryan too, like we even got talking about like vibing on almost like the same, like kind of what we're doing right now.
Mhm.
It was almost like the same vibe that kind of giving off
It
with
was.
Ryan too.
Yeah.
Like that same thing, like with God, just like literally what we're
Yeah.
doing right now.
we're on like a
Was like-
higher frequency right now, I think,
Yeah.
which is why we can resonate
Yeah,
with each other.
and
Not
that's-
everyone's at that frequency, so they can't resonate with what you're saying.
for sure, definitely. I mean, yeah.
So those who have ears to hear will hear, and those who don't
Ah.
won't.
Damn, dude. Yeah, for real. What the hell?
That's like with the whole revamp too. I'm not sure. Once again, when we first met, is that change? I
Mhm.
know. I'm not quite sure what you said, but it's like that's cool because you kind of wanted to get back into it. Going back again is the change, and it's just
Yeah.
the whole fucking deal of
Yep.
this
you
is
know
it,
what?
You know.
Change nothing, nothing changes. You know, you
Yep.
just keep doing the same stuff. Got to
Cycle.
change something.
Yeah,
Takes work,
it's the
But-
big circle. You know it is, and that's yeah.
but that's the only way to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Is becoming, you know, uncomfortable doing something different. And like we were saying before, you're going to expend energy. You might as well do it consciously and aware of what you're doing, because otherwise, like, you're just going to be tossed about your day, reacting rather than responding,
Yeah.
which is where our power is at. I feel angry right now because I'm glad I'm learning all this while I have little kids still,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because I'm trying to pass it on to them too. Like I feel like I'm trying to break generational, you know, curses in a way.
Mhm.
Not that it's any fault of my parents, because you can go back to their parents and their
Mhm.
parents, and you know maybe they didn't have an example. Like my dad didn't have a dad. Like his dad died when he was young, like
Mm.
7 years old.
Yep.
So that's like a
Yep.
father wound type of deal. He didn't know what a healthy marriage is supposed to look like, relationship, or anything like that. And my grandma was telling me that he never really got over that. So like my dad's an emotionally disconnected person. He's not going to really show any kind of emotions. You know, he's tough-nosed guy, just, you know, he'll say like I love you, but that's rare. Like
Mhm.
really rare. He's not in touch with that side because perhaps he didn't have, you know, that example in his life. But when we look across, when we come into reincarnation, the idea that we keep incarnating here over and over again, you know, maybe that's exactly what he needed in this life coming in, because it's going to, for his spirit's evolution, when we take a bird's eye view and we span things across lifetimes, we don't know what we did in the past life. We have complete amnesia, which makes this test like legit. Because if we had, we'd have too much baggage of all the other things we did before. So we re-enter at the consciousness level we were at before, and let's see if we can ascend. You know, can we overcome these lessons, these trials? And if we can look at them as being for our growth, happening for us, then now we're passing the test. Now we're climbing and ascending and learning, you know, how to love ourselves and love other people. Because I really think it boils down to just knowing love.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
God is love. Love is God. And
Yeah.
like that's what we got to focus on.
Literally. Yeah. And that's what's hard nowadays too, just like we said before, when everyone's so diverse now. In a way. You know what I mean? Just like
Yep.
you said, you gotta just start with yourself.
It's like,
start
and
with
then
your
things like
family, start
bad
with
sorry, I got a thought right now. Like when bad things happen, it's like, why do bad things happen to good people? You know, if we go from that bird's eye view and we look across all the lifetimes, you know, like say this good guy, like, you know, got stabbed or something and bled out and died. It's like maybe in a past life, he stabbed somebody and that
Mhm.
person bled out and died, you know, and like that energy was just being returned. And
that karma.
it's karma, yeah, but like I don't think you need it. It will always be like you killed someone with a sword, you're gonna die with a sword. That's where grace comes in, where it's like once you realize and you've, you know, and that guilt has come and you've processed it and you've repented and you become whole again. There's no need for you to get killed by a sword again. You've recognized what I did was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to compound it by getting stabbed.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So
I mean, that makes good sense, though. It does.
that's where the grace part comes in, I think, in like the Eastern philosophies that I'm looking at. It's more of like a mechanical, like you did this, then this is going to happen. But then you take, you know, the Western side of which is Christianity and the grace side, and I think they're both supposed to come together as one. And that's where you understand the other side, the love side of God, the grace. Like, wow, that's amazing. Like, God would do that for me, even though I was a terrible person before. And it's like, you need to forgive yourself, son. Like, you're a whole being. You are a perfect, eternal being. Nothing you have ever did makes you not loved by God. Completely loved.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole. That just literally. It seems like it all ties in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like with a lot of stuff that you said, like it just all kind of intertwines.
It's simple. Like, is this love? And what I'm thinking, doing, saying, is this love or not? That's a really easy practice to just keep that at the forefront throughout your day. Like, take every thought captive and be like, is this coming from a place of love? You know, and just keep doing that and doing it and doing it. And naturally, that'll be your natural state of being, is just embodying love.
Yeah. That's what I kind of wonder too. So I want to see what your thoughts are on this. So like, I don't know, lately I've been coming out of it now, but the last couple days, few days, I've like just hit like a slump kind of in a way. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I just kind of wonder. It's like, why am I feeling like a negative energy sometimes? You know what I mean? Like I get like everything's good, and I don't know if it's like a lot going on with like the property that we're working on right now, and just like a lot of pressure, like a lot of stress in a way. You know, like
Yep.
is all of that like weighing down on me, and like with timelines and with all of this stuff? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
is that the negative energy? Sometimes I wonder. It's like,
It's not all
like,
unicorns
why
and
am I-
butterflies and
right,
rainbows
right.
embodying love. No, we're
Yeah.
humans.
right.
And those other emotions do
It's
exist.
like them negative thoughts or negative energy. You know what I mean?
It's just a matter of
just
how do
like-
you transmute that negative energy.
Yeah.
Do you react to it, or do you just say, okay, it's here, I recognize it, but I don't need to react with that
Mhm.
energy. I'm going to hold a space for myself where I say, okay, I recognize this negative energy. I'm going to go into like meditation. What is bothering me right now? And then peeling back those layers.
And that goes back to what I was saying, where I've been doing a lot more of the breathing at work. How I said
Yep.
the last few days, you know. So
Yeah.
that's what I've been doing for that, and that does help, just to try to help to get out of that negative
Yeah.
slump or whatever. So
Yeah.
I guess just keep doing that then whenever, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, and like
you
it's
said,
different
you
for
know,
everyone. Like
so-
we all have our own spiritual paths and our own ways of thinking about
Yep.
things, and I don't think there's a one size fits all on anybody's
I
path.
agree.
Yeah, that's totally true. Dang, that's
That's a lot of information.
Yeah.
that's a lot to take in, man. It's like, dang, holy
Yeah, this
smokes.
has been fun, and like these are just the conversations I have with my wife. She's the only one that I can talk to and gets this stuff. Like
That's
it
super
resonates
cool.
with it.
Yeah.
You know, my mom's side of the family, they're all very like Orthodox Christian, like just very religious. Like we stick to the Bible, and we're not going to read another text outside of the Bible or anything like that, even if it's really wholesome
Mhm.
and like the message just hits you in the heart. Because I share that stuff with them, and it's just like they're not receptive to it. They don't have the ears to hear, I guess. Like it's just not there, and that's okay.
So-
That's totally fine, because I think religion also serves as like spiritual training wheels, gets you in the idea of like God and like devotion and all these things. But at some point, those training wheels need to come off, and you have to recognize that they were training wheels, that not everything in religion is true. You know, the feelings you get of ecstasy and love, all of that's real. And like that's the way it should be. But once the Bible goes into things talking about being punished and that God's angry and wrathful and jealous, we need to discard those. Like we have to sift through that stuff and find we need discernment that's based from our heart of what love is. Is this love that I'm reading or not? And then having the courage to have your own convictions on it. And
That's a
not-
good way to put it. Yeah.
So where would you start for self improvement, as in like healing yourself? For you, like for anyone out there too,
One
like,
thing
what
is-
would you start with?
Well, self-improvement, we can self-improve all day long.
Mhm.
It's not going to change the fact that we're already perfect. We're already perfect. Have that first at the forefront of like your brain, that we're already perfect.
Yep.
We are. And when you have that and you're feeling that, you're naturally going to start doing things that align towards that perfection. So you can never work to earn it type of deal. And so I get where, you know, you can't earn grace, like, but once you know it, and you know that you're perfect and whatnot, you have nothing to fear. You'll naturally start doing self-improvement stuff.
Sure.
Naturally. Because why
gratitude.
not? I love myself. Why would I not want to, you know,
Do that for
see
myself.
myself in a better state?
Yeah, good point. Good
Yeah,
point.
because like
No,
I'm
it
that
is.
guy too. I'm like, how many books do I got to read before I get to this point, and how much yoga do I got to do? And
Yep.
that can be stressful, and like
Yeah.
that's not helping. That stuff will come, with the
Mhm.
realization,
Yeah.
um,
Of
eternal
starting.
spirit, like of what I am. Who am I? You could ask a lot of people like, who are you? For example, I might say real estate appraiser. It's like, that's your job. Who are you? Dylan. That's your name. And you can just tell them to start with I am. Like, what's your state of or it would be I am Dylan. I am a real estate appraiser, and those are that's a name and job title. Just stop at I am. I'm just a being. I am. I'm an
Yeah.
eternal being. And then we create this self that attaches to this being, which is Dylan Wheeler, who has these likes, we define ourselves by these friends and this job and this stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you are. It's like, I am, we are, he is. Like, we're a being. We just be.
Yeah.
There's nothing more to it than that. You don't have to live up to anything
Yeah.
other than just knowing that and be happy.
Yeah.
Because
Literally.
when I touch it, like when I get in touch with friends I haven't seen in a long time, it's always like, hey, like, how you been? Like, you still working that job? And
Right.
we talk about things that I'm just like, oh, are you happy, man? Like, do you know who you are? Like,
Yeah.
that's all that matters. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to define you by your job or if you have a wife yet and kids
Mhm.
or any of that. It's just like, do you know who you are? Because I know if you do, you have nothing to worry about, and you wouldn't be asking me that question, maybe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. Like that's honestly up until you kind of pointed it out to me. Like that's how I pictured someone. And you get to meet them, you kind of get to know about them,
Mm-hmm.
but like that actual knowing,
Mm-hmm.
exactly what you just said. Like
You
actually,
don't know
what do
that.
they- yeah,
If you
like
don't know that, then you're either consciously or subconsciously judging them by some kind of metric
their
of how much
title,
money
whatever.
they make
Yep.
or anything like that, rather than seeing them as a divine being, as yourself.
Yeah.
Which is a lot more fun way to live.
And a lot more like simple and in a
It's
true
so
way,
simple.
really. Or
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so carefree. It's like there's no pressure, really.
Yeah.
Like,
It's-
there's no, like, the only passing grade is, were you loving? Did you treat
Mhm.
people well? Did you treat yourself well? That's a big, I would almost start at self.
Yeah.
It's like we were talking about, the harder to forgive yourself than others.
Mhm.
But if you forgive yourself, it's going to be easier to forgive others.
Yeah. That's true. That is true.
Dang, dude.
How long have we been on here?
I have no idea.
How long do you guys usually go?
I think our last one, I think we average right around an hour and a half.
Okay.
That's what we've been doing, but it's like it's kind of,
What is that at?
I don't know.
Did you hit play?
All right, let's do it again. Remember what we were talking about?
There's been some times they're them cameras, man. These cameras never seem to work.
Mhm.
Actually, okay, the last one. So get this. Starting the podcast off, I bought like the GoPros at a S or a DSLR, like a picture camera.
Mhm.
To use after, so there's a limit for recording for that. So whatever, got some cameras. Everything's fine, but it's the SD cards that was causing issues. So like the last podcast, it was record, stop. Something was shut off. So we had to go get in. It's just shitty because you have to stop the podcast mid-conversation.
Yep.
Fucking
It's
hell.
a learning process.
So this is the first podcast. I'm hoping the cameras are on, but
You know what's wild too? I just got this thought not that long ago. Like, if you guys didn't mind, maybe I could throw this one up on that channel that I have,
Please.
with like 5,000 subs.
Yeah,
And this
absolutely.
would be a
Damn.
great this would be a great way for me to like re-enter that
Mhm.
social media realm
Yeah.
sphere,
I
and a
think
great way for you guys
That'd be
too.
huge.
it'd be a win-win-win.
It would.
For really.
Because I don't know. I've thought about that. I'm like, how do I reintroduce myself?
What
Like,
better way of literally just like you said, right now.
Right now.
Literally.
yeah.
Just
Because
put
I
it
went
out
into things like that are personal, but they need to be discussed for like healing, and I don't need to be ashamed of any of it.
and it puts you out there in a position where you're not faking it.
Yeah,
Oh, you know-
I'm like vulnerable,
Yeah.
in a way. But like I see that as a strength. I've got nothing to hide,
Mhm.
and if I do have something to hide, I need to work that out.
Yeah, that's what's nice starting out here.
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
sober. You're getting your message out there.
Yep.
And you're confident in doing it.
I don't know what the message is other than just sharing these spiritual truths.
Right.
And I'm
Like, I
still
didn't-
I'm still learning every day.
Yeah.
I'm immersing myself in books and other YouTube teachers that are out there, or YouTube spiritual teachers that are, their message is 10 times more in depth and profound than what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
but we need more of those people, I think.
So I was just gonna ask you. So that's what you like to re-enter back in on your channel. Like that's what you're going to like. What is your main purpose that you want to perceive?
Yeah, you
on
gotta have
your
a
channel.
you gotta have a why. I'm doing it because I feel led to share. I feel led to create. That creative energy needs an outlet. It needs an outlet. I want people to feel the love of God. I want people to heal. Like I feel like that's a important thing and I know that from experience. There's a reason why I haven't made videos for 4 years now. It's because I'm in a transitional phase of spiritual healing. I need to go through it. I'd be a hypocrite if I talked about this stuff without doing it.
Yeah.
So right now I'm been gaining experience so I can talk about something I know.
Yeah.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Mm-hmm. That is really good. And then you'd go and completely rebuild up your fan base on this new version of you.
Yeah,
Then
yeah. We'll see how many people are actually active with those 5,000 because that was the first one me and a buddy started 8 years ago now. So I'm sure there's a chunk.
I mean, if that don't work, we do have 16 subscribers.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, I don't want to measure, success off the numbers or anything like that.
Yeah.
It could just be one other person that gets it, that vibes with it, and maybe that was my mission, to Earth, or maybe my mission was first myself to heal, and then if I can heal one more, like doubled up.
win.
I've
Yeah.
doubled up.
and that's like maybe there's out of them 16 subscribers right now. Maybe someone needed to. I know what you've said helped me a lot understand certain things and made me
awesome.
look at things in a different perspective and even help me understand things a lot better in understanding because I am still new to the religion world yet and I'm still trying to learn about it and take it all in as well. Or, like it's a lot. It is a lot to like even, especially when we come from a background of not very religious childhoods. Like we've been around, like we've been
I think
to
that
church.
helps
we've
you.
Been,
I think that helps you a lot because you're not indoctrinated with core beliefs that are so strong already that, like, if you believed in every single word of the Bible and whatnot, like you leaned on that. You leaned on the God to get through tough times in your life, and to start to question those, it would be really hard.
Yeah.
And it's fresh, and it's now that you're older, you can kind of voice your own opinion. So therefore, if your parents were kind of more one-sided,
and it's not a jab at anybody for anything. It's like the non-judgment towards all, really. Like we're all on our different paths, at different, these spiritual paths, just along different parts of the road.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm very far or anything. I don't know. And like if I do help somebody, it's all glory to God. It's not me building up my own ego, gassing myself up like, look at me, like I've acquired all this and I'm helping people.
Right.
It's all God who works through me doing that, and that feels amazing.
Yeah.
That's how I can serve God.
Yeah. That's great. That's really good. That, I mean, you're going to help a lot of people. Or, really.
Yeah, God.
Or,
like,
you know what I mean? But
I
working
hope
through
so.
you,
I hope so. I hope
Because
so.
I think this is what we need nowadays. Like, I truly do think that this is what we need more of. Like you said, spread more of the love. Like, just like you said, there's fear and there's hate everywhere. It is not hard to find.
Yeah.
It is there, So literally, like, growing platforms with good intent and good vibes is what we need.
Yeah, and those will be contagious too, because
Yeah,
it
it is.
feels good, man. Love is the strongest force in the world. And, it feels good to, I don't have to hate. I don't have to be angry right now. I don't have to look at that guy and argue with him. I love you, man. That's it. I'm going to go on my own way. Like, I hope you love yourself too,
Yep.
Yeah.
See everyone as a divine being. Maybe they need healing. Maybe they're all the way whole yet. And you don't have to look at them with anger or react to what they're doing. You can respond the way love would, understanding that, they're a divine being too. They're just on a different part, and they might have some lessons to learn still before they get to there.
Sure.
So,
Well,
I like that.
to wrap this up, where would people, if they want to reach out to you, how do you,
yeah.
what platform do you got?
Well, I do have a Twitter right now. It's at Dylan Wheeler 92. Instagram is Dylan Wheeler 1992.
1992.
Yep.
Okay.
I think those are the only two that I'm on right now. I've just been kind of taking that hiatus, like I talked about.
Were you born in 92?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, I was.
I was like, oh, dang, never mind. Edit that one out.
1992. No, my brother was.
Oh, man.
Awesome. I got to trick everyone. Got to throw that in.
Send him for a loop.
Yeah, right.
But no,
man.
thank you for coming on, Trav. If you have any questions or anything,
Oh man, it's been. I'm so glad that I got to meet you. I mean,
I'm
honestly,
glad you got
like,
to
yeah,
come.
Same. It's reciprocated over here.
You know,
I
very
appreciate you
glad.
guys.
It's like definitely made a new friend for sure.
Like I said, this was hard for me. This was hard, so it was another opportunity to grow, and I knew that. And this, like after the first few minutes till now, it just felt really comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, like we wouldn't need this here right now to be talking like this.
And that's
Absolutely not.
You know.
Absolutely.
a lot of the people, like the last guest too, they said this similar thing. Like,
Mhm.
okay, after you get past the point you're talking with the microphone, a headset, and cameras, it's like I felt
Mhm.
natural.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not trying to force anything. It just
There's that idea
I'm
of
just
like
talking
it's
to you.
larger than life right now. The big lights are on the
Yeah,
camera.
yeah.
Who's watching me?
Yeah.
Do they like what I'm saying? Like, could be anyone.
Yep. And that's literally where I'm trying to like overgrow to just, and I've said it. I actually said it earlier today too, and I probably said it 3 times already on the podcast. But literally just overcoming like this here, like what Riley said earlier. I'm glad. I think it's a good growing change for us as well, just because we are not the ones either to like put ourselves out there.
Mhm.
We're kind of more of like
never really been like that.
no, tuck back, mind your
Mhm.
own business. You know what I
Stay
mean?
in the
Yep.
corner.
Stay, don't, whatever. You know, the whole
Mhm.
introvert, I guess you could say.
I think you guys are naturals at this. Like, you guys complement each other really well. You look very comfortable.
Yeah.
Well, goddamn, thank you.
I mean, Riley over there's got the. I've been
Yeah,
like,
chill
I've been
down.
hunched over like this, battling a little bit of anxiety at times.
Hey
Just like-
No, and that's great though. Like that's what I just love. Like it just gets everyone out of their comfort zone, and honestly, just to feel comfortable and just forget about. There's gonna be haters everywhere, like we said. Regardless, people are gonna have their own thoughts, and that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, right. And
Put
it's,
them likes, comment, subscribe. No.
yeah, make sure you subscribe to this
Where's the
channel,
comment?
to their podcast. You got to get the plug. you
Come
know?
on, come on. You know? Oh man. Yeah, no, but for real, it's been great. I'm so very happy that you made it out here today and that you took a huge leap for you, just
Yeah.
like you said,
Yeah.
to get into the game again.
Well, I also feel like it's the beginning of a friendship that could last
No,
a
it
long
is.
time.
absolutely,
is.
absolutely, it is. There's no doubt about that, and
Yeah.
that's what's awesome about this whole podcast thing too. Is you get to hear everyone's story and you get to make new friends, new connections. I mean, you get to
Yep.
hear different sides of the story or different stories completely. And
Right.
It's
You
awesome.
don't have to
It's
agree with
awesome.
any of it either, but you're giving
Yeah.
a voice out there. So the
Uh,
platform is super important.
Yes.
And
Like it could be someone that you don't like. You see just about every day,
mhm.
but like, do you really dive in depth?
yeah,
know,
it's
and,
like,
like,
what
he's-
is the story of
Yeah.
this? Like,
Yeah.
and everyone has that
Mhm.
story.
Yep. It just
Everyone
is
does.
it actually heard or not? And that's like with the podcast here. Like I said many times, it's getting like your message out, or like a story, whatever it is that
Yep.
it is the guest wants to talk about. And
Yeah, I didn't
guys
come here
just
today
listen.
with anything. We didn't talk about what was going to be discussed.
Nope.
Nothing.
No.
it's like, hey, buddy, take a seat.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you ready? Sure.
Yeah, we literally started talking. It's like, all right, like we started already like talking like literally stories
coulda
and stuff.
kept
And it's
going.
like, all right, let's get the headphones on because we're
Oh, we
already,
were
like,
already-
just
yeah.
naturally like we were just like
Within 10
rolling.
seconds. Yeah, it's like, yeah, just like, so you know who God is? Like, just straight up, just never met you before. Like, do you know of God? Do you know how much God
true.
loves you?
Yeah, he comes always knocking
I'm
on
a
the door. He's got
Jehovah's
a
Witness.
pamphlet in his hand. He's like,
I have something to
No.
reveal to you guys. Have you accepted Jesus? as your-
it's like, oh man, gosh, this is fun.
That's funny. I did. There is actually a Jehovah Witness that come here
Mhm.
several times,
Mhm.
and we get talking in the driveway, and it's like, all right, dude, I gotta get going. He just keeps on rambling.
Yeah, and like that's probably it's coming from a good spot. It's just
It
like
is.
they don't know what they don't know. you
But
know?
that was the thing is
Yeah.
we just sit there, we get talking, and like
Yeah.
it's because he's
I'd probably start asking him a couple questions,
Yeah, 'cause
like
you
just
get
out of
into it.
love, just like, have you thought about this? Like, we'd probably still be out there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man,
that's
Debating.
awesome though. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for if this does get uploaded. Thank you for doing that. That's
Yeah.
big for us.
Yeah,
That'll be big for me too and
Yeah.
everyone else. So,
mhm, absolutely.
That's
It's
awesome.
good information. It was perfect. It was
and maybe we can do it again too,
Dude,
you know,
more
sometime.
more than
Absolutely.
happy. Yeah.
absolutely. We could even go into some deeper stuff, even like I don't
Yeah.
know, like even like some of the conspiracies.
Yeah.
That's what
You know
I'm
I
interested
mean?
in.
It's
Oh man,
like,
we could go
that's-
into flat Earth,
yeah.
all this
Oh,
stuff.
man, all right.
You'll be back.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
You'll be back.
Yeah.
Definitely we're gonna do that again.
All right, well, thanks guys, appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Thank you, Dylan.
See you
Yep.
guys.